Hi there. So we have looked with Ableton Live now different advanced MIDI controllers, touchscreen use and iPad use when creating music. And let's dive into Pro Tools and see how we can utilize these different type of advanced controllers, touchscreen and iPad with Pro Tools. I do not have the Avid controllers, so I'm gonna show the controllers that I have. Of course, Avid and Pro Tools has native controllers that you can use. So let's get started with Pro Tools. Alrighty, let's look into Pro Tools now, and let's look first into Maschine and how to, for example, use a controller like Maschine with Pro Tools. I have done an own session regarding on how to creating a Maschine template for Pro Tools. So I will not go into the configuration. I will just high level now explain that, you know, what kind of controllers you can use with Pro Tools in general to create music. As you don't have like Ableton push from Avid, you can use controllers like Maschine or Launch Key or whatever that basically work with Pro Tools if you want to have a bad type of a controller for jamming and playing instruments. It's also a sampler, so you can do sampling with it. So that's one way of doing and using samples or sampling like drums specifically with Pro Tools to link that with Maschine. And so what I have done here is that I have just basically added a Maschine into my project, and then I have programmed different channels. So I have the kick, snare, hi-hat and then clap programmed. Then on top I created the own channel for the bass and ARP and chords. So for those I used basically for bass I used Substance, and all these instruments are of course within Maschine. So what I can do now is I can play here and then I can record that into Pro Tools, and then I can, you know, finalize the final mix in Pro Tools. So I can use this for jamming. So that's one type of a controllers, kind of pad type of controllers that you can use then to jam and do samples. Then let's move on with iPads and how to use iPads with Pro Tools. One example I have here is basically the Metagrid IO, where I have used the Metagrid IO as a controller for Pro Tools, so I can do different type of things with it. For example, I have created macros to add an instrument track or add an audio track. So just basically touching and pressing the button, it will create and do macros in Pro Tools. I could also, in principle, what I have done also is that if we are now in this audio channel, I go into the effects, I could add an insert into point 1. So that runs a macro, and then basically it brings the you know, the insert into that slot. So for example, if I recall SSL compressor, it will go and bring it in. So it's quite convenient to do things like that. So you can do, if I want to put into a slot a D, for example, BX solo, again it will go and get that one. So it will make your workflow a bit faster in respect of you know, recalling plugins or then, you know, doing different type of commands. I have 2 layers on it, so I have different type of edit controls here. Then I have the main controllers over here, so like play a loop or play a timeline, depending if what modes I have on. So that's quite convenient. Pro Tools has its own iPad controller, and we will look that also in a bit. Alrighty, let's move on and look iPad controller from Avid, and that is a Yukon control. So in order to make that work, you need to have the Yukon set up. It's a separate software that you need to download from Avid and install. Once you have installed, you basically have this control panel where you can control the Avid control that is running in iPad. In order to use it, you need to basically drag and drop it or move it into My Surfaces. You might have also other Avid controls here listed, so in order to use them, you need to add them here into My Surfaces. So that's one step. Another one is that in order to use Yukon, you also need to enable it from here, but you might have a case that you don't see it. You need to right click and find that, you know, the Yukon is enabled, so that it is using Yukon control protocol, and then you can use the iPad controller with your Pro Tools project. So, and one thing also I noticed that it works better if you have iPad in a MIDI and audio mode. So I don't know if there is a big difference, but at least for me, I have seen that it works better with that configuration that you need to set from the MIDI audio settings in your Mac. Okay, so let's look on the iPad then, and there you basically have the basic controls, transport controls. So you can start, stop, and of course you can run the mixer. You can run the mixer, you can look into your tracks from a mixer point of view. And then of course you can go into your tracks, you can select a track, and then of course Pro Tools of course follows it, obviously. You can go into your channels, you can go into your meters, so you basically see meters only. And then of course here also you can create soft keys. These soft keys are actually configured in Yukon settings, so you can deal with the soft keys over here for your iPad, and then of course you need to find the equivalent control from here, and then you can modify those soft keys in your Yukon setting window. And then you have the monitoring section as well, whereby you have the monitoring controls if you have them enabled. So in a nutshell, that's how the Avid iPad control and Avid control looks like, and it's very convenient to use. However, I've been using the Metagrid IO with Pro Tools for the reason that I have felt it's a bit more easy to be programmed. There's nothing wrong with the Avid control. It works great, and it is of course natively integrated, so you can do all kind of things with that, like your main stuff regarding on your workflow. Okie dokie, let's move on to next, see how we can utilize other advanced MIDI controllers with Pro Tools. Alrighty. So what else you could have as some advanced MIDI controllers are different type of controllers that provide you tactile feedback regarding on using, for example, with your virtual instruments. So you can have sliders, buttons, rotary controls, and extend your expression, for example, or modulation with this type of controllers. So while you are playing, you can basically then address the modulation parameters, and of course these controllers can be easily configured. So you basically go into the control that you want to configure. You have different modes. You have MIDI mode, you have a joystick mode, and depending on the control you have different options to do. So in this case it basically sends from 0 to 100 and 127, it sends the CC channel number 1. Channel 11 in this case, and this is channel number 1. And then of course all these can be configured from here, so you can change the channels and then also what it is sending, MIDI CC or channel pressure or what. And this is the way you can control and configure this for your own needs. You can have different profiles as well, so you can do a profile for an instrument. You can also have multiple of these, so you can scroll them through. Then, for example, if you have external synthesizers, you could also control, these external synthesizers through this. So it provides a lot of flexibility in your workflow and gives this tactile control that you can then utilize when creating music. Alrighty, let's pause the video over here and continue next Tuesday. Remember to subscribe for the channel. See you next Tuesday. Thanks for watching. Bye.